Welcome back, focused learners, to another explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating paradox, a really strange kind of counterintuitive mechanism that actually dictates so much of our daily lives. It's called the backwards law. Now, the premise here is simple but incredibly profound. It suggests that the harder you grip, the less you hold, and that trying harder often produces substantially worse results. Just think about that sinking feeling of running in quicksand, right? Where every frantic movement pulls you deeper, and the sheer effort you exert actually makes your situation much, much worse. So if you've ever felt like your intense effort was actively moving you backward, well, you're definitely going to want to pay close attention to the concepts we're breaking down today.
Okay, let's jump into this explainer by looking at a visceral reality we've all experienced at some point. Picture two cars sitting at the exact same intersection at the exact same red light. On the left, we've got the frantic driver. The light turns green, and he just floors it, aggressively weaving through traffic, only to hit literally every single red light down the road. On the right, the calm driver simply accelerates smoothly, catches every green light, and ends up arriving 90 seconds earlier. Why? Simply because he drove calmer. This beautifully illustrates the backwards law in action. You don't win by burning more fuel, you win by managing the flow. Actually, I want to be ruthlessly honest with you here. We often entirely misunderstand what calm actually is. Calm isn't passivity. It's not weakness, and it is certainly not just about cultivating good vibes. Look at the calm figure in the center of the chaos right here. That is high-capacity information processing running at absolute full speed. It's the state of your brain functioning optimally while everyone else's system around you has essentially crashed and burned. It's not the absence of action, it is the presence of total, deliberate control.
So let's jump right into Section 1, the biology of sabotage, and why frantic effort consistently loses.
To understand this deeply, we really have to look at the biological engineering problem at the root of it all. We need to look at why the thing that feels like power to us, that sense of urgency and frantic effort, consistently sabotages our success and loses to the thing that feels like giving up. Deep inside your brain sit two almond-shaped clusters called the amygdala. Evolutionarily speaking, their primary job was to detect leopards hiding in the bushes to keep you alive. But in our modern world, the amygdala has a massive glitch. It cannot distinguish between a literal life-threatening predator and, say, an email from your boss with the subject line, "Quick chat." When the amygdala screams, you experience an amygdala hijack. Blood physically leaves your prefrontal cortex, which is the advanced, modern part of your brain that handles reasoning, planning, and creativity, and it forcefully redirects to your primitive survival systems.
I want you to seriously ask yourself this question. Are you a monkey in a world that no longer contains leopards? Because when you panic, your brain insists that predators are absolutely everywhere. It shuts down your higher-level thinking right when you need it most. Your body is frantically preparing you to fight or flee, completely abandoning your ability to sit, think, and actually solve the very real problem in front of you.
Moving on to Section 2, the reactive tax, the real cost of a shrinking working memory.
When you enter a panicked survival state, your working memory, which is basically the mental scratch pad you rely on to hold information and solve complex problems, literally shrinks. Now, you might feel like you're thinking harder because of the sheer intensity of your stress, but the feeling of effort and the actual production of results, those are two entirely different things. Let's look at two different approaches to an unexpected exam question. Student A panics immediately, their amygdala fires, and they start frantically scribbling just to feel productive. Student B sees the exact same difficult question, but instead she closes her eyes for 10 deliberate seconds and then begins to write. Student B consistently scores higher. Why? Because by taking those 10 seconds, her cognitive hardware stayed fully online when she needed it most.
Let's break down the actual math on this reactive tax. Notice the massive chunk of time here. Student A ends up spending a staggering 40% of their total time just correcting panic-induced errors. It's completely wasted time. Think about how this directly applies to your own life. Every single time you lay on the horn in traffic or defensively fire off a sarcastic email in 9 flat seconds, you are paying this exact tax. You pay it in bad routing decisions, in awkward apologies, and an endless social cleanup that could have been entirely avoided if you just had all your faculties online.
Which brings us to Section 3, 3-second technology, the actionable space between stimulus and response.
The fundamental difference between a life of constant chaos and a life of actual power comes down to a highly learnable biological reboot. It's basically a piece of built-in human technology that takes exactly 3 seconds to execute. Let's take a moment to absorb this profound observation from Viktor Frankl.
Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space is our freedom. Think about that. That deliberate beat of non-reaction is exactly where true freedom, power, and control live. It's the space where you consciously choose your outcome, rather than just being a hijacked victim of your own biology.
Let's walk through this process and see how this builds biologically. Step 1. The stimulus happens, and your amygdala fires its alarm. Blood starts quickly draining from your reasoning centers. Step 2. And this is where your true power lies, the deliberate 3-second pause. Just think about the physical sensation of taking just one deep, grounding breath, filling your lungs and forcing your shoulders to drop. Step 3. In those 3 critical seconds, the biological alarm is assessed, deemed a false alarm by your nervous system. And your prefrontal cortex, meaning your reasoning, your planning, and your intelligence, comes rushing fully back online.
And the impact of mastering those 3 seconds? It extends far beyond just you. Imagine a pilot flying at 30,000 feet. If that pilot comes over the intercom with a panicked, frantic voice, every single passenger immediately prepares for absolute disaster. But if that pilot sounds steady and calm, well, even a major mechanical problem feels manageable. Your nervous system is a transmitter, and your kids, your coworkers, your spouse, they are all receivers. Your composure literally gives the people around you permission to breathe and think clearly.
All right, Section 4, strengthening the circuit. Building calm through neuroplasticity and maintenance. To maintain this elite cognitive hardware, we need to completely dispel a very common myth right now, the myth of the naturally calm person. Most calm people weren't born serene. They're simply people who failed loudly enough in the past that they actively stopped finding the noise and panic interesting. Take Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor. History tells us he wasn't born perfectly serene. In fact, he was once a completely reactive mess. He had to practice his way into something better, meticulously working through his triggers in his journals. This is pure neuroplasticity at work. The neural pathways you use are the ones that physically get stronger. Every single time you practice that 3-second pause, you're strengthening the neural circuit that will eventually make calm your effortless default state.
Now, look at that staggering 60% figure. Let that sink in. That is how much more reactive your amygdala becomes after just one single night of poor sleep. It is a massive handicap. You can practice the pause all you want, you can read all the Stoic philosophy in the world, but if you are constantly running on empty, your biology is going to forcefully work against you.
Your brain requires a literal nighttime maintenance crew, which means your hard-earned calm is truly only as good as your last night's sleep. We have to stop viewing sleep as a luxury for the weak or as time wasted when we could be hustling. Sleep is foundational neurological infrastructure maintenance. Without it, you are practically guaranteeing an amygdala hijack the very moment a minor inconvenience crosses your path.
Let's bring this full circle, right back to our opening metaphor. Tomorrow, I can guarantee you, someone is going to cut you off in traffic. You're going to get a stressful, vaguely worded email from a boss or a demanding client. You will absolutely feel the urge to revert straight back into screaming monkey mode. But remember those two drivers. The frantic driver always arrives late, deeply exhausted, having paid a hefty reactive tax along the way. The calm driver arrives first, with a completely full tank. The calm you consciously build today ensures you have the cognitive capacity to handle absolutely whatever tomorrow throws at you.
So I want to leave you with this provocative question to carry with you. How will you use your 3-second space today when you inevitably face the screaming monkey mode? Remember, that tiny, deliberate space between stimulus and response is exactly where your true power lives. If this explainer shifted your reality and helped you understand the mechanics of calm, hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the source material that shapes our world. Keep learning, keep pausing, and I'll see you in the next one.